Make your brand extra.
Let's go. All right. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Jesse Lewis. Jesse is a comedy hypnotist who works with groups all over Canada to have safe, clean, fun events that actually engage the audience. Jesse, it's so good to have you.
Alicia, I am so glad to be here, and I'm so happy to be interviewed by you. It's time. Let's do this.
All right. So, being a stage hypnotist is a rare gem of a career path. So, tell me about how you got started.
It is a rare gem. There's only about 1,500 of us in North America, which sounds ridiculous, but only about 150 of us are actually working. So my story is pretty simple. I was working a really stressful job. I'm not going to get into that, but I had 21 guys underneath me, and we weren't paying them well. So we were getting not the bottom of the barrel, but just not as high quality people as they could have been at the time. And I was really stressed out. It was a 24-hour-a-day operation, and I decided, hey, I need something to de-stress, because managing 21 people, and working 400 hours a month is extremely stressful. So I learned, first off, hypnotherapy, and then I learned stage hypnosis. Pretty simple. From there, how I learned it was I read a book. I went out and booked a show at a bar. Pretty simple. And from there, 6 months later, I quit my job. And then from there, I never, ever looked back. It's been stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy ever since.
Oh, I love that. So did you have an interest in like magic or performing as a kid?
I did. I originally, the very first stage hypnosis show I was ever part of, I actually snuck into a bar when I was 14 years old, and I had facial hair back then, so I could get into the bar pretty easy. I got hypnotized on stage. Wasn't drinking or anything, but I got hypnotized on stage, and I found a love for it. It was just amazing. And now, I'm not recommending anybody sneaks into bars, especially at 14, but do what you got to do.
Oh, that's such a good backstory. So you had a love for performing like early on.
I always did. And it goes back to the Christmas concerts when we were kids, or when I was a kid. I loved being on that stage. And the weird thing is I was never in drama. I was never in any arts classes. It was just something that found me. And I decided to follow at the age of 22, which is way back in 07. That's a long time. And once you find a passion, it's hard not to follow that passion, sometimes right to the point of collapse, but you have to do it.
Oh, that's so true. I love that you found a passion and you fell in love with it and you followed it. And even more than that, I love that you found financial success in that, because a lot of times, as you said, passion can lead you to ruin because you don't have the plan. With my audience, I talk about how success equals hard work and a good plan. And the planning part is often not there, or the hard work part is often not there. So you have the crowd that likes to manifest, and they don't really put in, not that they don't put in the hard work, but they don't put the value on that aspect of that formula. Or you have the people who, will work really hard, but don't have any of the planning behind it, and they're just spinning their wheels. So it sounds like you definitely married the two of those together. You found that success with both.
I was very lucky.
Equation.
Absolutely. I was very lucky when I first started that I had a mentor that directed me in the right way. For me, my brand isn't about reaching millions. And you might think that's weird because I'm an entertainer, but my brand really is about reaching the 300 people that can actually book me per year versus reaching out to the masses. There's very specific demographics that I work with. And without those 300 or 400 people that actually can book me, I'd fail. If I was trying to reach the masses all the time, if I was trying to create 100 million fans, the sad part is a fan cannot book me. A booker can. So I have to focus my attention on them instead of focusing anywhere else.
Did you find that early on, that secret that you're not for everyone?
I did. And it actually started with where I live. Before the interview, I told you where I live, which is the middle of bloody nowhere. There's nobody here, but there's all these little towns where there's 300 people or 500 people and 2,500 people. And like the biggest city in my province is 250,000 people. That's nothing compared to a US city or even anywhere else in Canada. There's it's really the middle of nowhere. And knowing that if I don't want to travel to Toronto or Vancouver, I have to use what's at my disposal, which are those little event planners in small towns for the community centers, for the hockey rink, for the service clubs like the Lions, the Elks, the Kinsmen. All those people are the contacts that I need. And they're the only contacts I need, because just randomly blasting crap all over the place doesn't work for what I'm doing. I have to be very, very targeted in that niche and understand who my market is. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. And there's nothing worse for a brand or a person than just going off half-cocked and wasting your time. It's a way to fail. It's a way to burn out. But if you know your focus and you know where you're working and who your actual target market is, then it changes absolutely everything. Instead of making 100 phone calls, you've got to make 6, which absolutely changes everything.
So how do you reach your audience? So those few people who are the bookers, what avenue are you using? Are you using paid ads? Are you using cold calling, or how are you reaching them?
So it's a combination. There's several ways. The main way when I started was direct mail, because you could still get service clubs addresses, and you send out a postcard. You send out 1,000 postcards actually, and it actually hits the right person, and you'd book 2 or 3 shows off that. Nowadays, it is Google Ads. That's what's working for me. It is for other things. I'm using some Facebook posts, but not a lot. It's a really niche group that I have. And really, it's about contacting them either by phone or email, which depending on where you are, could be viewed as spam. I'm not sending out thousands of emails that are all form emails or anything like that. They are personalized. I try to do only 10 a day, which sounds ridiculous. How can you run a business off 3,000 emails a year? But I do.
Awesome.
Or even a couple thousand calls, and that's per year. So it's finding those proper contacts, and the second part of it is serving them in a different way, literally making your brand extra than almost anybody else out there. And the next question is, of course, how am I going to do that? But I'll let you ask the question.
I do want to ask that question. I do, real quick, before we leave the topic of like the traffic and driving leads. So specifics, let's get into that. When you're when you're building your list, so you're driving traffic from mostly Google ads, and then they're going on like an email leads list. Is that that's how you're getting your leads? And then you're personalizing emails and reaching out to them with phone calls from there. Okay. So go ahead.
I'll pause you there. So how I work it is it's based on a, sorry for interrupting. I do apologize. It's your show. I don't mean to.
You are fine. I want you to talk and tell me the answer.
So what I do is I have a leads form on my website. So Google Ads funnels down into the lead form. The lead form is going to ask a couple questions, but because I'm an entertainer, I need to know what the event is about. So what I have on there is I actually ask for their phone number, which is a huge no-no, right? You're not supposed to ask for phone numbers on lead forms. But if I don't have their phone number, and I put this on my lead form, I need to talk to you about your event. Because if I don't talk to you about your event, how am I supposed to care about your event?
Right.
If I don't know what you actually need, how am I supposed to help you? And whether they book me or not, I really don't care personally. On a personal level, that's separate from me. I am there to help them whether they want me or not. So I can lead them in a direction of another entertainer. I can give them advice on how to get sponsors. I can give them white papers. They used to be called white papers. What are they called now?
Right.
Lead magnets, whatever it is.
Right. It depends on what industry you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. But I give them resources to actually serve them, because if they're going to book me for my rate, I'm not cheap. I'm probably in the top 5% of Hypnotist, to be honest.
That's awesome.
If they're going to book me and I expect my premium price and they expect a premium event, then I'm going to serve them in a premium way even before they book me. It's that simple. I'm going to give them the tools and resources for their success, especially because I know my market. I'm working with service clubs. Well, the guy who's at the Lions Service Club plans one event per year, and he's going to book me for that event. So he's not actually a professional. He might have been doing it for 25 years, but he doesn't actually have that experience to understand how to get sponsors really easily. He doesn't have the experience on how to promote on Facebook, because let's face it, some of those guys have been doing it for 40 years and they're 70 years old. They don't know how to use the new online media. So you teach people how to do that for that specific event. And when you do, it's serving them in a better way. And whether they book me or not, I want them to go away better for it and understand their job and their business and their event better than they did before. Sorry for being long-winded.
No, that's perfect. I love that answer. So you're not only solving a problem of being entertainment, you're not only curing boredom for events, but you're also providing value in the booking. And I would assume that that is why you have a very high rebooking rate.
Yes. On a 3-year average, I'm looking at 80% of people rebook. And the reason for that is because they don't want to have the same entertainment every year. So they swap out to a new guy and then they come back to me. And it's pretty amazing. And it's a great way to build business, right?
Right.
If the people who are listening aren't creating a list of your previous clients, aren't servicing those clients even after servicing them in the first place, that's a huge mistake. It's way easier to get somebody to work with you again than to start brand new. It really is.
Right. So that goes back to the old adage, the fortune is in the follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you, because you mentioned direct mail, did you follow Dan Kennedy?
No, but my mentor did.
I figured somewhere along the line, someone that you worked with definitely had to have told you about Dan Kennedy if you did direct mail.
Yeah.
That's super fun.
Yeah. There was, when I first started, there was a magician that was actually following almost all of Dan Kennedy's stuff, and his stuff came out. And then my mentor, marketing is a copy world. It always has been. You copy what works for somebody else, and you you go from there.
Absolutely. Oh, so that's super cool. I was going to ask about your mentor too. So your mentor was also a hypnotist.
He's out of the business now. And right now he runs one of the largest webinar platforms that there is that does automated webinars. So he's been out of hypnosis for almost 10 years now, actually. So. Wow.
Oh, that's super cool. What a blessing. So can I ask you how you found your mentor?
So there's a website called The Magic Cafe. It's been around since the internet was born, pretty much. And I went on there and I was looking for books on hypnosis specifically. Mm-hmm. I bought a book by Jeff Ronning, The Modern Guide to Stage Hypnosis, which now is 30 years old. It's crazy how time flies, but 20 years old maybe. And that was what started me. I read the book and I literally took the advice in the book and went out and booked a bar show. That was it. That was the journey to success. Being 22 years old, I was young and dumb and stupid enough to go do stuff, right? Had enough confidence to do stuff,
right?
Which, as we age, we lose, right? Which is scary. Mm-hmm. So have the confidence to go out and jump and do something instead of sitting and worrying about paralysis. That's a big tip.
That's a huge deal. Even young, some people just. I think the resistance to start at any level is there, but you're right. I think it is less when you're younger. So what has been your biggest challenge in building this brand?
So when COVID hit, that destroyed my business for 3 years.
Oh, right.
Completely and totally. There was no shows. I wouldn't do online shows just simply because they're dangerous. So I stayed away. With hypnosis, they're dangerous, not with other stuff. And generally, I went through a divorce, blah, blah, blah. And that was my biggest challenge that I had with the actual business. Because of who mentored me, I learned how to work the business no matter what. I can go get a gig if I absolutely have to. But the biggest challenge was understanding where I'm at, understanding who that actual client is, understanding who I can actually help. Instead of blasting off promo materials to half the country and hoping something sticks, it's about knowing who it's going to stick with and targeting that person specifically, creating your customer avatar. I know it's old and cliche, but that really is the start. And then understanding the demographics of that person is the second thing that was really challenging. Who is going to be able to actually book me? Who is, his name is Fred. Fred.
I love that you have a name for your avatar. I love it.
Well, Fred and Betty, those are the two.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Fred is a service group person. He is either a member of the Elks or the Kinsmen or the Kinettes, or Elks or Kinsmen, or sometimes the Lions as well, or the Legion. Okay. And he's usually about 50 years old. He's grumpy because he's been forced to do this event. He doesn't want to do this event, and he will take any help that he can. The second one is Betty. Well, it works. The second one's Betty. She's 35 and she's a corporate event planner who works in HR, and she plans 3 events per year. That's really it. And I could get down to how many kids they have, all of it, their financial situation, but knowing who that person is and putting a name to them, it's huge. It really is. It absolutely changed my business, because now I know I need to serve Betty and I need to serve Fred, and that's my people. And other than that, the rest falls into place.
And there's power in that too, because when you put a name and a face to who you serve, then you're creating all of your emails that you're writing, every phone call that you make, you know exactly who you're talking to, and that messaging can be formed around that person. I tell everybody to do that. And you're right, it is old and it is cliche, but it's become old and cliche because it works. It's one of those things in marketing that has stuck around because it's effective. That's amazing. Good job. I love that. So tell me about the project that you've done, or the show that you've done, the thing that you've done that you're most proud of in your brand.
So I've done about 1,000 shows since 2007, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. When you're traveling for 15, 16 hours in a day, it really is. So the things that I'm most proud of is when I go to a community. We just did this it was on the 1st of December, actually. I went to a community in southern Saskatchewan. They have only about 500 people there. That includes adults, kids, everybody. They have this community hall, and they need to raise funds for it. They've raised about $250,000 in the last 10 years, which isn't that much when you really think about it, $25,000 a year. Well, when I was there, we raised almost $15,000 in one night, because they had 205 attendees. They charged $60 a head for the show and a meal, and took my fee out of that, of course. They ended up with about $12,000 after everything was said and done. And those are the things that really inspire me, because those community projects, where I live, our population is finally growing, but for 40 years it was declining horribly. And watching the communities that I love, the tiny little places, the hole in a wall, lose the services that they do have, people moving to the city, people just not sticking around, really bothers me, because I watched it happen to my hometown. It went from 1,500 people down to 800 people in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So when you lose half your population to either death or just people not moving in, or some of the townspeople were jerks and didn't like new people, it bothers me. So I like going to those small towns where I know that my skills can make a difference, that I can help promote an event where we can get 200 people in and we can raise $10,000 for whatever the cause is. So that's something that I'm proud of in my business. And I could list probably 200 of these things where we've hit $10,000 or more. So it's not necessarily about my fee all the time. Don't get me wrong, I don't work for free, but I love helping people as well.
So with your fee, do you sometimes find yourself like fluctuating based on who's booking you, or do you have a flat fee?
For years and years and years, I had a flat fee. And since COVID hit, I did decide that I will have a flexible fee, if that makes sense. I do 2 free shows per year, no matter what. That is my giving away to charity. I have specific charities. There's a whole list of them that I do the 2 shows for free. Everybody else does have to pay my normal price, unless it is a cause that I really, really believe in. Sure. My firstborn child was born with a cleft lip. Mm-hmm. So whenever I get a group that actually is going to donate to that, basically all I charge is travel and a little bit extra to cover my costs. It's not huge. Keeping in mind that I'm in the highest priced flights in Canada where I live. So, so travel can get costly as well. But compared to my normal rates, it's a huge discount. And I know that I can serve them if they allow themselves to serve themselves as well. So it's just nice to have. So to answer your question, I have a flexible rate.
Love it. Yeah,
I'm long-winded.
No, it's good. And that's really what this podcast is going to be all about, is just digging into what is working for people, what they're doing, what strategies you're employing. So I like all the nitty gritty. That's amazing. And I didn't even think about, when you were talking about traveling in Canada, how gigantic Canada is and how much it must cost. I know a flight across country here is sometimes pretty pricey. So
for me to travel to most places, I actually drive, because driving is cheaper than flying. If I'm going to fly to Toronto from where I'm at, it's going to cost me a minimum of $1,500 to get there.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's return flight as well. But I can actually fly to Vegas cheaper than I can fly to Toronto, which is insane.
Yeah.
But more traffic, that's how it works, right?
Yep. Vegas, that's fun. Have you done any shows in Vegas? Isn't that like the mecca of stage hypnotism?
So I never told you my mission statement or my thing. My whole mission is to help event planners and groups have safe, clean, fun events that actually engage and inspire. So in that, safe, clean, and fun, Vegas is not any of those things.
However, I will say Vegas seems
Vegas
like
is
it's
fun.
cleaned up quite a bit than what, it was in maybe like the 80s.
I attended a show in Vegas 5 years ago where the volunteers were given suckers that were the shape of penises.
Oh, so maybe not. And
yeah. So that's nothing worse than you're going to see at you know what I mean, a bachelorette party.
Party, all right.
But it's still not good for my corporate clients if I did that type of show, right? Once again, knowing my audience,
your audience, right?
Yeah, I know that Betty in HR is not going to like seeing that video, and she's not going to book me. So.
Right. That's very true. That's amazing. Again, kudos to you for knowing your brand and sticking to it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, before we wrap this up, tell me what your biggest goals are for your brand coming up. Where do you see your brand going in the next 5 years? So
there's a couple places. I want to move into the entrepreneurial space with my hypnotherapy practice. Specifically for imposter syndrome, I want to help people to overcome the fear they have that they're not good enough, because they're just as good as anybody else. We didn't talk about education, but I literally started a business from reading a book. That's it. And getting off my butt and going and doing something. Action takers are money makers, and I'm proof of that. So I'm going to be moving into that space more and more, about the mindset, specifically for entrepreneurs. With the actual shows, my goal is to eventually move to Niagara Falls. Eventually, it's a pipe dream for right now. But if you're in the audience and you own a venue in Niagara Falls, hit me up.
There you go.
But I want to move there, and I want to have a show 6 nights a week. That's really it. I want it to be safe. I want it to be clean. I want it to be fun, and I want it to be family oriented. Pretty simple. Goals are always, for me, I try to make them so they're almost not achievable, so that when I do achieve them, I can go, holy potatoes, how did I do that? Which I don't know. I'm weird.
No,
yeah,
I love that.
It.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. What a great place to go for like an established show too. A place where families are always going. There's always travel. That's pretty brilliant.
That's the goal. I know I can sell the damn thing out 6 nights a week. So
I have no doubt at all. So do you have anything that you want to offer the listeners today?
Okay. I do, but I'm going to stop before I do that.
Okay.
In your questions that you sent me, you asked for specific book recommendations. Now, we didn't get that question. We got 4 minutes to do this. I'll get to the final promoting thing later if that's okay.
Yeah,
so
that's perfect.
My market is people who have never planned an event. So what do I need to know about? Event planning. And it doesn't matter what book. I've read most of them. The next thing is my show's about community. Who are you serving out in your audience? Who are you actually serving? What do they actually need? Do you know anything about what they actually need? Or are you just offering a service that you think will help them? Find out what will help them. 13 ways to help your community or to kill your community. This thing is fantastic. It's by Doug Griffiths. He's an MBA. And this really teaches people how to grow a small town or a small community in different ways. And basically the whole summation of it is don't say no to people that are trying to help. Let people actually help. Direct mail for dummies. Mm-hmm. It sounds dumb, but the dummies books, I'm an idiot. And we're all idiots in some ways. So dummies. And it doesn't just teach direct mail, it teaches you direct marketing. It's amazing. Leadership by the book. It is what it is. The 4-hour work week. I'm lazy too. Do you want me to keep going?
I love all of those.
My whole point is with the books, and you asked specifically for them, is if you're going to market to somebody, find out what the hell they actually need. Sorry for swearing. I apologize in advance.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But if you don't know what they need, you can't serve them in a way that actually makes sense for them. And to be an expert, you only need to be one level above the person. That's it. So by reading an event planning book, I'm probably 18 levels ahead of Fred, who only plans one event per year. Sorry for interrupting you. I apologize.
You're fine. I'm actually super happy that you did that because there are a couple of books in that pile, especially the one about, what was it, 13 ways to kill your community?
Yes.
I'm putting that on my list for sure.
And it's really for like recreation directors or church leaders and stuff like that, or anybody who has a community that is slowly dying. And the communities I live in, they're very what's the correct way to put this? Non-inclusive. There's established families, there's established routines, and people that are new coming in aren't necessarily always welcome. And that's how you kill a community. That's what I saw when I was a kid, going from 1,500 people down to 800 people in 10 years. So
now, the community I live in, it hasn't been that drastic, but it has been similar. We're climbing back up now, but that book is definitely on my list. That's amazing.
The pitch, superiorsuccesssecrets.com. If you're worried about imposter syndrome, go there. I will have a 15-minute chat with you for absolutely free, just to see if I could help you with some hypnotherapy to overcome that imposter syndrome. No cost at all. And this is a big risk because I could get 4,000 appointments just to talk to people, and that's okay. The second one is, if you're in Canada, hypnotistjesselewis.com. That's my website. And if you're in the States, I do have a passport and I could work on an honorarium technically without having to get a visa. I mean, it's kind of a gray area. I'm just kidding. But that is how entertainers do work in the States, is usually on an honorarium. Other than that, Alicia, what else have we got? Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, I love it. I will definitely link your free consult link in the description of this. I think that is such a great offer because imposter syndrome and that resistance that we talked about earlier in the show is the biggest thing that keeps people from actually starting. And if you don't start, you can't ever find the success that you're after. So having that offer and being able to help people work through that imposter syndrome is huge. That's a great way to end the show, I think.
That's exactly it. I'll let it be.
I love it. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on today and being one of the very first interviews for this podcast. It's super exciting, and you've been a joy to have on.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thanks. Well, hey friends, if you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button, because friends are fun and success is cool, and here you're going to find both of those. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave the show a review. And when you do, your review could be the next one that I read out loud on the show. Oh, and before you go, check out the description box for tools and resources that you can use to make your brand extra, like our free Branding 101 Facebook group. And do you want to take it to the next level? Then check out the link to our mastermind group, The Extras, where you can connect with a high-level group of entrepreneurs through live group coaching, exclusive deals, private trainings, and so much more. My name is Alicia, and I teach entrepreneurs like you to create irresistible brands that can't be ignored. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Make your brand extra.